Well, good morning and welcome to your Monday Morning Devotionals. I'm so glad that you are joining me once again this morning. For this week, I pray that the words that I share with you today either inspires you, encourages you, or challenges you in your faith and in your spiritual walk throughout this week. Last week I was talking about the heart service, if you remember. I was talking about how it's those who do the will of the Father, or those who enter the kingdom of God. Not those who just say a prayer, or those who do mighty miracles for God, but those who do the will of the Father, which is to love God and to love people. It says that those two commands, they cover all of the laws and all of the prophets that were written in the Old Testament. What I find interesting is before Jesus was speaking about that in Matthew 7, he was speaking about a tree and its fruit, having to do with what's called the false prophet, that which looks like the real deal, but actually is nothing but a false replica of it. And what he says is, beware of those false prophets. And in verse 16, it says, you will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? No. So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit. A healthy tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a diseased tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will recognize them by their fruit. Jackie and I were at the garden center this last weekend because the youth center had been donated some funds to buy trees and shrubs and all that stuff to just populate the garden at the youth center. And we were in there looking at all types of trees, and we saw fruit trees, and some had fruit that you could eat, and others had fruit that you could not eat. And it's very important to understand that there, out in the wild, there are trees that bear fruit that looks like you could eat them, and yet they're very poisonous for you. And yet there are trees that bear beautiful fruit that are good for you. Ezekiel 47, it talks about the Spirit of God, the river of God. And Ezekiel says in the vision that he saw trees planted on either side of the river, and that those trees had leaves for healing for the nations and fruit for nourishment. In the Christian life, we are to bear fruit that is nourishing to those around us. Have you ever been around somebody that's a bit bristly? That everything about them is not about good fruit in their life, and yet they claim Christ, and yet you find that actually they're all about themselves. And well, I want to talk about what does that mean to bear good fruit in our life as believers of Jesus Christ. And in Galatians 5, verse 22 and 23, it says, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Well, how beautiful that is. How beautiful that is. I used to think that the fruit that was born in someone's life was their success. And you may see people and think, wow, they must be doing things right because look how successful, how rich, or how prosperous they are. Look at how many people they led to the Lord, or miracles that are happening in their life all the time. And yet it's the character of a person that's important. Billy Graham is a great example. A great evangelist. He's preached to millions around the world through travel and through TV. And yet there's a story of him that he was being picked up at a train station, and he came off the train, and there was a crowd of people, paparazzi, journalists, heads of church and all that, his hosts, waiting for him. And as he was coming off the train, he's heading towards the crowd, he noticed out of the corner of his eye this little old lady whose suitcase had popped open and clothes everywhere. Forgetting the crowd, he went to this little old lady and put her things in her suitcase and helped her on her way. And then he returned to the crowds. And they were amazed that this man who could have sent somebody to do it, humbled himself to do just that. Billy Graham was a man who lived the life that had the Spirit of God born from within. I want to encourage you this week to reflect on your life and say, Lord, what aspects of your fruit am I missing in my life? Is love really relevant and present in the world that I'm in? I pray you have a blessed week, and I'll see you next Monday. God bless.